The world thought Epstein's secrets would die with him. They were wrong. The files that were sealed for years are open, and what they reveal is more disturbing than anyone ever imagined. Private jets crisscrossing the globe, hidden islands where no laws applied, victims whose voices were silenced for decades, and people in positions of unimaginable power, all connected. This is not rumor, this is documented, undeniable, and terrifying. In this video, we will uncover everything: Epstein's rise, his network, the crimes, the victims, and the shocking truths hidden in the files. But before we dive into the island and the conspiracies, let's understand what the files actually are. The so-called Epstein Files are not one single secret list hidden in a vault. They are a massive collection of millions of pages of documents, images, videos, emails, flight logs, court records, investigative reports, and digital evidence related to Jeffrey Epstein and his network. On January 30th, 2026, under the Epstein Files Transparency Act, the US Department of Justice published 3.5 million pages, including about 180,000 images and 2,000 videos. Within those millions of pages, public releases have included flight logs from Epstein's private jets, photo and video evidence, emails and messages, list of contacts, financial records and property records, witness statements, and legal filings, all painstakingly collected over decades by law enforcement. And the part that grabs attention, the names. Names that show how far and wide Epstein's world reached. Now, with that context, who was the man behind the files? Before the headlines, before the files, before the island, this was just a name few people cared about. Born on January 20th, 1953. He came from a normal Brooklyn neighborhood. His dad worked for the city parks department and his mom was a school aide, a world away from private jets and secret islands. No wealth, no power, no famous bloodline. He attended Cooper Union and later New York University. But here's the detail that matters. He never graduated, no degree. And yet, Epstein had a talent that would define him for life. He knew how to look convincing. He spoke calmly, he dressed sharply, he sounded intelligent. People believed him because he appeared credible. In the 1970s, Epstein became a teacher at the Dalton School, one of the most elite private schools in Manhattan. Parents trusted him with their children. He blended in easily among wealth and privilege, not because he belonged there, but because he looked like he did. Before the power, Jeffrey Epstein was simply a man who knew how to appear harmless. That harmless image didn't just earn trust, it unlocked access. And that access is exactly how Jeffrey Epstein began his rise to power. After getting fired from the school, Epstein walked into a world he wasn't supposed to be in. A world of Wall Street power and secret money. In the late 1970s, Epstein met Ace Greenberg, a senior executive at the giant investment bank Bear Stearns. He hired Epstein because he saw something unusual: confidence, presence, and a suspiciously smooth way with the ultra-rich. Epstein had no college degree, yet there he was, inside one of the most powerful financial institutions in the world. At Bear Stearns, Epstein didn't hide in the back room. He worked with wealthy clients, he talked money, he learned how fortunes moved, and somehow, despite lying about his education, he became a limited partner, a title usually reserved for elite insiders. But Epstein didn't stay there long. By the mid-1980s, he set up his own money firm, J. Epstein and Company, first with small offices, then with a bigger claim: "We manage money for billionaires." Barely anyone knew who he was, yet somehow one billionaire did. His name was Leslie H. Wexner, the founder of L Brands, the powerhouse behind Victoria's Secret and Bath and Body Works. Wexner didn't just trust Epstein, he gave him full control, power of attorney. From that moment, Epstein became someone worth knowing. He wasn't just a money manager, he became a man who could move in elite circles without raising suspicion. Documents from his accounts show that Epstein had banking ties with giants like Goldman Sachs and HSBC, which widened his reach into global finance. Emails later released in court filings even showed him corresponding with tech founders and wealthy investors, placing him at the center of networks that spanned the globe. And then there was the tax strategy that would become his hidden power play. In the late 1990s, Epstein moved his financial operations to the US Virgin Islands, a tax haven that legally allowed him to shelter massive sums of money. His companies, like Financial Trust Company and Southern Trust Company, became vehicles for wealth most people never see or understand. But while people saw success, something darker was taking shape behind the scenes. For Epstein, influence wasn't just about finance. He wasn't building an empire. He was building access, and that access would take him to a place even more secretive, even more shocking, a place so isolated, so private, and so shielded from the world that its name would later send shockwaves across the globe. Officially, it was called Little St. James, a tiny private island of roughly 70 to 80 acres in the United States Virgin Islands, just southeast of the larger St. Thomas in the Caribbean Sea. On the map, it looks peaceful and beautiful. White sand beaches, turquoise water, and palm trees swaying in the breeze. But under Jeffrey Epstein's ownership, Little St. James became one of the most infamous private properties in modern history. Epstein bought the island in 1998 for about $8 million, and soon he began building a secluded fortress. He constructed a luxurious villa with terraces overlooking the sea, guest villas and staff housing, swimming pools, a helipad, and private docks. The most unsettling structure was a cube-like building, sometimes called the Temple, perched on a hilltop. It had strange geometric floors, a golden dome, and ornamental statues, a surreal, almost ritualistic setting. Satellite photos and drone footage show it alongside a network of paths, huts, tennis courts, and even a sundial, all meticulously planned to control who moved where. Inside the island, according to recently released Justice Department files, there were disturbing features: a dentist's chair in an unusual room, walls decorated with cryptic messages like power and deception, spaces that survivors say were used to rape, sexually abuse, and intimidate underage girls. After the death of Jeffrey in 2019, the island changed hands in 2023, sold to billionaire Steven Dekoff for a luxury resort. But for the world, it will always carry the weight of the horrors committed there. To locals, it was known as Orgy Island. To victims, it was something worse, the Pedophile Island, a place where rape and abuse were normalized, where being young made you valuable, and where saying no meant nothing. What happened there wasn't accidental, it was organized. It involved helpers, recruiters, pilots, and people whose job was to make sure the girls arrived and didn't escape. That's where the story gets even darker, because to understand what really happened on Epstein Island, we have to look at how the trafficking started, who helped run it, and the woman who stood at the center of it all. Ghislaine Maxwell wasn't just a bystander. She was British-born, from a wealthy, powerful family, and by the 1990s, she was living in New York, moving in elite circles with celebrities, politicians, and the ultra-rich. But behind the scenes, Maxwell became something much darker. Epstein's closest associate, recruiter, and enabler. Court records and survivor testimony show that starting in the mid-1990s, Maxwell was the one who identified vulnerable young girls, befriended them, and groomed them for Epstein. Then when they were comfortable, she offered them a chance with Epstein. What seemed like opportunity was actually a trap. One of the most well-known stories came from Virginia Giuffre. She met Maxwell at President Trump's Mar-a-Lago club when she was a teenager and reading a book about massage therapy. Maxwell approached her, offered a job working as Epstein's masseuse, and told her she'd be trained and taken care of. But the moment she walked into Epstein's Palm Beach home, the situation changed and the grooming turned to exploitation. But Maxwell didn't work alone. Epstein's trafficking network included pilots, staff, and recruiters who operated like a well-oiled machine. Epstein's private jets, including the infamous Lolita Express, were used to transport girls between homes in New York, Florida, and the private island in the Caribbean. Flight logs show multiple trips where unnamed women and girls were transported alongside Epstein and Maxwell. Some victims were recruited through modeling agencies and connections in the fashion world. Investigative reporting suggests Epstein used the H-1B visa program to bring in models from abroad. Someday, the full names of every staffer, every recruiter, and every co-conspirator may be known. But what's already clear is chilling. This was not a one-time crime. It was a system designed to ruin lives, and to understand the full horror of that system, we must first understand the crimes that were committed there. Survivors describe a system of manipulation, isolation, and intimidation, where passports were confiscated, staff controlled every move, and silence was enforced through fear. Beep were trafficked, beep rose, and beep across Epstein's properties. Some survivors reported being beeped multiple times a day, forced into beep contact with Epstein and others, and some were pressured to recruit other girls into the network, creating a cycle of exploitation. A 15-year-old beep once tried to escape by swimming away from the beep. According to court filings, she was caught, had her passport confiscated, and was prevented from leaving. There are also weird code words hidden in beep emails and files. Once the documents were made searchable, people started finding odd phrases like pizza and paste again, and messages that strangely mentioned cream cheese. The word beep appears about 52 times in the Epstein Files, adding to the island's creepy reputation. Truth or exaggeration, these bizarre court theories showed just how hidden and disturbing Epstein's empire is. But even the most powerful and hidden empires have cracks. And for Epstein, that crack finally appeared with his first arrest in 2008, when federal authorities began piecing together the threads of his trafficking operation. In 2008, Epstein was first charged with sexually abusing underage girls, mostly in Palm Beach, Florida. Police had recorded complaints, taped evidence, and dozens of victims who said they'd been coerced into sexual acts with him. But instead of a full federal prosecution, something unusual happened. Epstein struck a secret plea deal with prosecutors. The deal was astonishing. Epstein served only 13 months in jail. He spent most days out on work release, free to walk around, meet people, and continue parts of his old routine. He avoided a long sentence that most believed he deserved. The public reaction was explosive, because how could a man accused of such crimes walk free with almost no punishment? The answer lay not just in one contract, but in a network of power that Epstein had spent years building. He had lawyers who knew how to shield him, and money that bought defense teams and private negotiations. But everything changed in 2019. Renewed investigations, new lawsuits, and victims who finally spoke out publicly forced the case back into the spotlight. This time, Epstein was charged with federal sex trafficking. The allegations were broader, deeper, and more damning than ever before. There was new evidence, emails, flight logs, testimonies from dozens of women who were no longer afraid to tell the world what they had endured. And for the first time, it seemed like Epstein might finally be held fully accountable. But on August 10, 2019, while he was awaiting trial in a federal jail in New York City, Jeffrey Epstein was found dead in his cell. The official ruling, suicide by hanging. Yet almost from the moment the announcement came, people began to question it. How could a man under 24-hour supervision in a high-security federal facility take his own life? Suddenly, a simple statement, "he killed himself," was not enough for most people. The circumstances were bizarre, almost cinematic. Cameras in his cell didn't record properly. Some footage was missing entirely. Guards tasked with watching him fell asleep or skipped protocols entirely. His cellmate had been mysteriously removed, leaving Epstein alone during the critical hours. The medical examiner's report raised eyebrows. with some noting injuries unusual for a typical hanging. Who benefited from Epstein's death? That was the biggest question of all. Epstein knew people, very powerful people, politicians, billionaires, royals, celebrities. If Epstein had gone to trial, decades of sealed testimony, flight logs, financial records, and private messages might have been revealed publicly. So people began to ask, did someone want those secrets buried forever? Did someone with deep influence make sure Epstein could never talk? These theories, whether true or not, spread because too many details didn't fit the official story. And now, the Epstein files are finally public. Millions of documents, emails, flight logs, photos, videos, and evidence that shows just how far his network reached. And the part that grabs attention? The names. Here, it's important to understand. Just because a name shows up doesn't automatically prove guilt. Some were there for business, some for social reasons, some for reasons the files don't fully explain. A few records show repeated trips to Epstein's properties or other suspicious patterns. The connections are real. And through it all, the victims' voices, silenced for far too long, remain at the center. Some of the public figures whose interactions are documented include Bill Clinton, former US President. The files include images and flight logs showing interactions with Epstein dating back decades. Next is Donald Trump, another US President. His name appears in more than 38,000 places across the released files. 38,000 times. Elon Musk is also in it. The billionaire tech entrepreneur and CEO of Tesla and SpaceX. He once claimed that he never went to Epstein's Island, but fresh files released this year have made people look twice. Moving outside the US, Ehud Barak, former Prime Minister of Israel, appears in multiple documents connected to Epstein and his network. One of the most surprising names is Stephen Hawking. Yes, the author of A Brief History of Time. His name appears in the files, which immediately caught public attention because of who he was. Donald Trump's family and others connected to social events and flights also appear in parts of the documents, like lists of guests or events Epstein attended. Several other names linked to the Epstein world through photos, contact lists, meeting logs, or emails include cultural and political figures like Leonardo DiCaprio, Bill Gates, Alan Dershowitz, Prince Andrew, Cameron Diaz, Kevin Spacey, Chris Tucker, and Glenn Dubin. And while the files give us pieces of the puzzle, they don't answer the biggest questions. How deep did the connections go? Who knew and stayed silent? And what other secrets are still buried in plain sight? It's time for Factssay Confidence Score. So, this was the story of Jeffrey Epstein, a man who hid behind wealth and charm while destroying the lives of young girls, abusing them, and running a twisted empire of sex trafficking. From the horrors on Epstein Island to the helpers who made it all possible, to the powerful people who were connected to him, it is a story of lies, cruelty, and unimaginable evil. Even now, with the Epstein files open to the public, one question stays with us. How many more secrets like this are still hidden? And who else could be doing things this disgusting right under the world's eyes? And why are these files released now? Is it to distract us from something even more horrible? Share your thoughts in the comments. I would love to hear them. See you in the next video with another interesting topic. Till then, bye.